Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Insha'Allah, I pray you are all well, safe and sound. May Allah's mercy be on all of us. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Jazakallah khairan. My dear brothers and sisters, what I am about to bring to you is not surprising at all, and yet shocking. We have known that this is going on, and frankly, much worse. But this time, we have 3 Israeli human rights groups breaking the silence. That's the first one. Yesh Din and Physicians for Human Rights Israel, whom have all conducted a long, detailed 2-year research and inquiry into the activities of the Israeli military in the occupied West Bank. It focused especially on the severe psychological impact on the Palestinians of these illegal military raids that go on there. Now, this credible report includes testimonies of some 40 Israeli soldiers. That's right, 40 Israeli soldiers, medical doctors, and Palestinian families whom are all first-hand witnesses. So, this wasn't a quick surface-level thing you can just ignore and push aside. And the findings of this report are utterly damning, my beloved brothers and sisters, truly damning. So, firstly, right, let me put this out there as a preemptive strike, if you like. You cannot, with any credibility, say that this report and its findings are unfair or biased or anti-Semitic, because these are Israeli people themselves. Keep in mind, investigating the Israeli military and then bravely, honestly speaking out about the real situation on the ground, and in particular about the plight of the Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. So, without further ado, this is what they found and reported back. It's truly upsetting and frankly hard to believe. The first thing they found: Israeli troops enter homes, Palestinian homes, on average more than 250 times every month. So listen very carefully, my brothers and sisters. Every month, just 30 days, Israeli soldiers raid 250 Palestinian homes. Every month, not 1, not 2, not 15, but a whopping 250. They are not in a state of war. I have to say, I was astounded by this figure, 250. I mean, I know this was happening, right, at some level and scale, much smaller scale, mind you, thinking perhaps maybe it was an odd and a rare thing, more targeted at suspected terrorist homes. But this, come on, this sounds more like a mass, state-level, state-sanctioned policy of wholesale intimidation of the Palestinian people based on race and religion. Anyway, let's continue. The Israeli military will often convert the Palestinian homes as and when they see fit into military observation posts and instruments of Palestinian oppression. So they would use Palestinian materials, homes, rooftops, premises to oppress Palestinians. Clever, but nasty. Evil. Another factor. These raids the raids in the houses, they often happen in the middle of the night when Palestinians are asleep and feeling most safe again. Why at night? When you know it will cause the maximum amount of disruption and psychological trauma. I think we all know. But let's continue. To maximize the psychological impact, the report found that these raids are usually accompanied by no paperwork and arbitrarily done. So no paperwork, no warrants, no legal documents or authorization. They can literally, these military personnel, these soldiers, they can literally walk into your house at any time, day or night, without giving a reason, no legal documents, nothing, just because they feel like it. The next part of the report tells us what we frankly already know, why they do it. This is what the Israeli soldiers who were interviewed for this report said. They believed, the soldiers that is, that an important function of many raids was intimidation. So, Israeli soldiers who are carrying out these raids are personally admitting this themselves, that their job out there in the Palestinian territories which they are occupying is to intimidate and cause maximum disruption and trauma for the Palestinian people. Wow, that's damning. We can just stop there, frankly. That is primary source material. This is straight from the horse's mouth, my brothers and sisters. And they are condemning themselves the actions of the Israeli military here. I think I'm going to have to step back for a second. I need a break. This is heart-wrenching stuff, honestly. Because a home is your private space. It is where you and your family, your wife, your mother and father, your children, feel the most safe and comfortable. But just imagine, any stranger can just walk in to your house, into your room, your bedrooms, when and how they feel like it. You could be eating, you could be sleeping, showering, or just relaxing. This is not how you treat real human beings. This is not how people live or can live and stay healthy and sane. Avner Gavariyahu, the executive director of Breaking the Silence, which is one of the organizations, human rights organizations, who did this report, and a former sergeant of a sniper unit, whom once himself conducted invasions, said this, quote, "For soldiers, like myself, it ended when we walked back to the jeep. For Palestinians, it is a long-term trauma. What it means is that you cannot feel safe in your own home or bed." End quote. Think about that. Fadel Tamimi, a 59-year-old imam, Palestinian, at a mosque in Nebi Salih on the West Bank, says that his home has been raided more than 20 times. He said the following words to the Observer paper. The reason they do this is to scare everyone, to show who is in charge. They never say why or show an order or piece of paper. End quote. The aim is to control and humiliate. Control and humiliate. That's exactly right. to be fair to Fadil Tamimi, the Palestinian man, it wouldn't have to be a traditional family or a traditional setup. Frankly, any family anywhere in the world would be left traumatized by such an experience. So, my dear brothers and sisters, what is the motive behind this intimidation? Why are they doing it? Presumably, there is a purpose. Maybe this sheds some light. Quote, "What comes to mind," says Dr. Jumana Milhem, a psychologist who works with Physicians for Human Rights Israel, is that the process involves the dehumanization of a whole society. Its point is to break their human spirit, end quote. And further, quote, "At an individual level," says Milhem, "the consequences can lead to trauma. People are reporting stress weeks after these events." She continues, "There are several risk factors for the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that we see in high percentages in Palestinian society in general. Here, we are not talking about a single trauma, but a facet of the continuous trauma of occupation, the feeling of being imprisoned in your own country, this feeling of being constantly exposed," end quote. So that's what it is. To humiliate and break the spirit of the Palestinian people, treat them like dogs, so they give up and run. Now, the plain cruelty and brutality of the raids have not just impacted on the Palestinians, it has also turned many Israeli soldiers against the inhumanity of the state-sanctioned raids. One soldier even went as far as to say that she could understand why Palestinians were forced into extremism by such brutalizing actions of their military. Quote, "I had this strong idea that held my world together. Because I am nice. I'll do it differently. But what matters is you're in a home at 3 a.m. We can't be there without destroying their lives and creating the terror that later comes back to us." Notice what he said. Quote, "creating the terror that comes back to us," end quote. Very important, perceptive, truthful words spoken indeed. Ariel Bernstein, 29, who served in an elite infantry unit, the Sariyat Nahal, admitted the following, again, not shocking in the least. Quote, "There's always an official security reason to do A, B, C, to protect Israeli lives. But in practice, it does mean to control Palestinian civilians," end quote. So, it's all about control. They will give excuses and reasons that it's about security, terrorism, extremism, going after militants, etc. But it's all about civilian Palestinian control. Now, this is Israeli soldiers saying all this. This is not Palestinians. These are not even Americans. These are not foreigners. These are Israeli people, soldiers, who have been on the front line saying all this. So to conclude, what have we learnt from this Israeli human rights report? We've learned that sadly much of what we suspected about the Israeli military and their motives in the occupied territories is true. The Israeli military are using excessive, disproportionate force, knowingly, raiding 250 civilian homes a month, doing so arbitrarily, without warrants, in the middle of the night, using poorly trained soldiers who struggle to communicate with the Palestinians. This is all designed to be a psychological weapon. against the Palestinians in order to brutalize, dehumanize, and break a people's spirit. We learned that there is no such thing as a humane occupation. The Palestinians are suffering daily humiliation, oppression, and degradation. So let's pray for them as an ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their pain and end their subjugation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lift up their dignity, their honor in this world and the next. Now, a spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces denied to the Observer paper that entering homes was to intimidate, saying its frequency depended on security threats. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, my brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Watch out for the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care. And never forget, La ilaha illallahu Muhammad Rasulullah.